Magerman, Dr. Pamela Gardner is back with us today, cardiologist from Lima Memorial Health System. She's getting us a little bit healthier. Now, I was thinking about my last wellness check. One of the things they looked for was my cholesterol and my lipids. First of all, my cholesterol, I know if it's too high, it's a bad thing. But tell us about cholesterol and what it's measuring and kind of what happens if it's not at a good level.
Okay, so when I look at a cholesterol reading, I don't care what the total is. I look at the split. What is the HDL, which is the good guy, and what is the LDL, which is the bad guy? I think of the LDL as the trash. So we want to get rid of it. That's the stuff that's going to deposit plaque in your arteries. So what you want to do, obviously, the first mainstay, diet and exercise. Stay out of the red meats, limit your egg yolks, fried foods, that sort of thing. And walk. Walking is probably the best exercise there is, and most of us can manage to do that. So there's that piece. And then in addition to that, depending on where your level is, often we use medications. So my cut point, if you don't have any risk factors, you don't have family history, you yourself don't have heart disease, let's try and keep that LDL guy under 100. If you do, you have familial hypercholesteremia, which would be an LDL of 180 or more, is the definition. That's crazy high. Or you yourself have heart disease. You've already been diagnosed with some blockages in your heart. You've had stents or bypass. Or maybe you're diabetic, major risk factors. We want to get that LDL at least under 70 by the American Heart Association and College of Cardiology recommendations. In Europe, they're going for 55 or less. Yeah, way down there. I have people based on meds who have LDLs of in the 20s. There is no too low.
Is that basically where we start if those lipid and cholesterol levels are not where we want them? Is it more of a medicine thing, or do we start with diet and exercise, or where do you usually start? Is it a range of things?
I usually start with diet and exercise. If it's somebody who does not have major risk factors, let's try and get it down that way. If you're over 160, you're going to need some help. And so those individuals, regardless, I'm going to start on some kind of a medication. I start with statins, which unfortunately have a bad rap for muscle aches. If you take them with some CoQ10, that can be minimized. They did an interesting study in England where they happened to use atorvastatin or Lipitor. They put 500 in a group on the Lipitor, 500 on a sugar pill or placebo. 6 weeks later, they said, who's having muscle aches? A few in the Lipitor group said, I am. And a few less in the placebo group blamed that for some muscle aches. They flipped them. And 6 weeks later, more people in the placebo group complained than the people on the actual medicine. So some of that is, Joe, my neighbor had muscle aches, so I must too. But anyway, that's our first line with respect to medicines. If that doesn't lower you to where you need to be, or you absolutely can't tolerate it, I have a few other drugs in my armamentarium. So there's Zetia, which works a little bit differently. I can use that as an add-on, or in some people by itself. It doesn't pack a lot of punch, though. There are two classes of new medications that I absolutely love. Unfortunately, they're new, and so that makes them expensive. One is what I call a PCSK9 inhibitor. The PCSK9 is in the liver, and it's what breaks down the receptor for getting rid of the cholesterol. These are injections. Every 2 weeks, you give yourself a shot in your thigh. This will drop the bad cholesterol, like I said, down into the 20s. There are people who also qualify for a new class of medicines, which actually totally blocks the genetic formation of the PCSK9. That medicine is called Leqvio. It's a shot, say time 0, a second one in 3 months, and then every 6 months. And it will halve your LDL.
Wow, great options. But the key, as you said, is to get in. You guys have same-day cardiology appointments. We can get in
Yes.
and check these things out, right?
Right. Once we know what we're dealing with, we can do something about it.
Yeah.
But you got to get in and get your numbers checked and see where we're at.
Get them treated. All right, Dr. Gardner, as always, we appreciate it. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
You
Thank
bet.
you.
Nice chatting with you. We'll be back right after this.